Welcome to the New Zealand Rugby channel, where the passion for rugby comes alive. Don't forget to hit subscribe, so you won't miss any of the epic moments. Let's dive in and explore the game together. The suspension of Makazole Mapimpi. A case of injustice in disguise. Makazole Mapimpi's 5-match suspension, including games involving the Springboks, for which he wasn't even named in the matchday squad, has sparked widespread debate, and rightly so. It feels not only controversial but inherently unfair. In sport, particularly at the international level, disciplinary actions should be clear, reasonable, and grounded in the actual context. This robotic application of punishment affects not just the player, but also erodes public trust in the integrity of governing bodies. Common sense should have prevailed here. But unfortunately, it didn't. As someone passionate about sport, and especially rugby, a game built not just on physical prowess, but also on spirit, fairness, and honor, I couldn't help but feel deeply disappointed and frankly, frustrated when I read about the ban handed to Mapimpi, the seasoned Springboks and Sharks winger. What on the surface seems like a by-the-book disciplinary decision actually reveals a string of questionable inconsistencies that deserve to be addressed. Let's start with the obvious. Mapimpi's action in the match against Ulster, lifting and dropping a player so that their upper body hit the ground, clearly breached Law 9.18 of World Rugby. A red card was absolutely justified, and a suspension was to be expected. No dispute there, but what has raised eyebrows isn't the fact that he was punished, it's how and when the punishment is being enforced. Banning him for 5 matches, including international fixtures, for which he was not even in the run-on 15, and may not have featured at all, is not only baffling, but borders on symbolic rather than practical. This leads to the key question: what is the actual purpose of a suspension? Is it to punish appropriately, based on actual availability and selection? Or is it just a tick-box exercise on a calendar? Mapimpi wasn't included in the official matchday squad for the Springboks' November fixtures, though he was named as part of the wider training group. Including those matches as part of his suspension timeline makes the punishment feel tokenistic, diminishing its real-world impact. It raises serious concerns around transparency and the seriousness with which disciplinary processes are being handled. Another important question follows. If a player is not selected to play, does a suspension during those matches carry any real consequence? Or is it simply a convenient way to soften the blow without formally recording leniency? This sets a troubling precedent, and invites scrutiny on whether players and unions are now exploiting regulatory loopholes to effectively sidestep meaningful consequences. Such maneuvering may be common at the elite level, but for fans who believe in the sanctity and fairness of the game, it's disheartening. This issue isn't isolated to Mapimpi. Take Gary Ringrose of Ireland, for example, who received a similar suspension following a red card against Wales. Coincidentally, some of the matches he was banned for included Leinster games he was unlikely to play in anyway. Meanwhile, Ntamack of France faced an entirely different scenario, with no such leniency afforded to him. This all paints a rather messy picture. A lack of consistent standards in the disciplinary system, from club rugby to international level. And in any system, inconsistency breeds doubt and dissatisfaction, especially when experienced players like Mapimpi, who have given so much to their national side, are involved. The essence of punishment in sport should be to educate, deter, and uphold the values of fair play. But when bans are watered down or applied to matches a player was never realistically going to feature in, the deterrent effect is severely weakened. One has to wonder, what lessons will young players take from this? Will they learn to respect the law, or instead learn how to navigate the gaps within the system? Sport is about more than competition. It is about character and example. But what we are seeing undermines those very values. Decisions like these risk setting a dangerous precedent, one where discipline appears strict on paper, but is performative in reality. As a South African rugby fan, I've always admired Mapimpi, not just for his speed and skill, but for the fire and passion he brings to the game. Seeing such a player caught up in disciplinary issues is disappointing enough. But the greater shame lies in how the system appears to treat him, like a statistic to be managed, rather than a player to be held accountable with fairness and honesty. Let me be clear. I do not condone Mapimpi's illegal tackle. He fully deserved the red card, and a suspension was warranted. But what I take issue with is the impersonal, opaque, and arguably unfair manner in which the suspension has been administered. It's time for World Rugby and major competitions like the URC to reevaluate their disciplinary procedures, not just for consistency, but for integrity. A ban should not merely be counted by the number of matches, it should consider context. Was the player in the match day 23? Was he genuinely available for selection? Was the match one he was likely to play in? Without reform, cases like Mapimpi's, and indeed Ringrose or Ntamack's, will not be the last. Rugby, once a sport defined by its honour and warrior spirit, risks becoming a game where gaming the system is more polished than the tactics on the field. Mapimpi's case should serve as a wake-up call for the entire professional rugby establishment. When laws are applied for show, and punishments can be served during irrelevant fixtures, the very essence of what makes sport meaningful is compromised. As a rugby supporter, I call not just for clarification, but for commitment to transparency, reform, and a more just disciplinary system. Let fairness prevail for those who deserve it, and let trust be restored for fans like myself. Thanks for being part of the journey with New Zealand Rugby. If you're a rugby fan, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next epic moment. See you in the next video.